What does it mean to be a prisoner inside your own mind? Imagine living every day doing things you don't actually want to do over and over, just because a small voice inside says, if you don't do this, something terrible will happen. To the world, you look fine. You laugh, you smile, you go to school, you show up at work. But inside, you're exhausted. And no one sees it. Today, I want to take you into the world of someone living with OCD. Not the TV version. Not the I like things neat version. But the real OCD. The one that steals your time. That makes you doubt your own thoughts. That makes you feel broken when you're not. That forces you to do things that don't make sense just to calm an invisible fear. This isn't just one person's story. This could be the story of many who are never heard. Alex's early life, missed signs. Alex was only 9 years old when it began. At first, it was just strange thoughts. He was terrified he might hurt his little sister. Even though he loved her dearly, he knew he'd never hurt anyone. But the thought scared him so badly, he started hiding scissors from the kitchen. He even avoided going near the kitchen altogether. He even began avoiding playtime with his sister, afraid he might lose control. He began praying obsessively, not out of faith, but out of fear. If he didn't say a specific prayer 5 times in a row in exactly the right way, he believed something bad would happen to his family. No one saw this as a red flag. They just thought Alex was devout, disciplined. But behind it all was a child drowning in guilt for having thoughts he couldn't control. He also became obsessed with numbers. 3, 5, and 7 became sacred. He could only open his school books to pages with those numbers. If he didn't, he felt physically uncomfortable, like a weight pressing on his chest. These rituals were subtle, hidden. Not a single teacher realized Alex was silently suffering. As time passed, Alex's mind began linking unrelated things to catastrophic consequences. If he stepped on a crack on the sidewalk, something bad would happen to his mom. If he didn't flick the light switch in a certain pattern, his dad might be in danger. It didn't matter that it made no logical sense. In Alex's world, logic didn't matter, only the anxiety did. Teenage years, silent struggles. In high school, OCD had taken full control of Alex's life. He spent hours rewriting his homework. One tiny mistake wasn't enough to erase, it had to start from scratch. Over and over. He slept very little. He was constantly exhausted. But because his grades were still good, no one questioned anything. Mornings were a nightmare. He had to open and close drawers 5 times, touch the doorknob with a specific finger, wash his hands until they felt right. If he skipped any part of it, he believed his entire day would fall apart. As a result, he was frequently late to school. Teachers labeled him as lazy or disorganized. The intrusive thoughts worsened. He feared he was a bad person. What if I'm dangerous, he thought. He avoided holding babies, avoided sharp objects, even avoided sitting near windows in case his brain told him to jump. Life became a series of avoidances. Trust in himself slowly vanished. He also developed mental rituals, counting in his head, repeating words silently, imagining certain images to cancel out the bad ones. It became exhausting to simply exist. And because he looked normal on the outside, people assumed he was just quirky. But what they didn't see was the emotional toll it took on him day after day. Collapse at university. College was supposed to be a fresh start. A new city. New friends. A new identity. But OCD doesn't care where you go. By his 2nd year, Alex couldn't make it to class. It took him 2 hours just to leave his dorm. He had to check every light switch, lock, and window repeatedly. If the sequence was wrong, he had to start again. There were nights when he stood at the sink washing his hands until 3 a.m. The sound of running water was the only thing he heard. His hands were raw, red, and burning. But he kept washing because the anxiety in his head was worse than the pain in his skin. He stopped eating in the cafeteria, afraid the food was contaminated. He lost weight. He lost friends. He even missed a dream internship because he couldn't attend the interview. Why? Because that morning, his ritual took 4 full hours. He seriously considered dropping out. The isolation was unbearable. Everyone else seemed to be living normal lives while he was trapped in a mental loop he couldn't escape. He began to drink alone, just to silence the thoughts. But alcohol only made it worse. Panic attacks became frequent. He often found himself crying alone, feeling like a complete failure. He wanted to ask for help, but the shame was too strong. The turning point: seeking help. One night, everything broke. He stood frozen at his door, unsure if he had locked it. He checked it once. Then again. Then again. 45 minutes passed. His roommate yelled at him. Alex felt humiliated, broken, lost. That night, he Googled something he'd never dared type before. Why do I need to check things over and over again? He found articles on OCD, then YouTube videos, then support forums. For the first time in his life, he realized he wasn't crazy. He wasn't alone. There was a name for his pain. Even better, there was hope. He read stories of others who had gone through the same thing. He heard words he never imagined hearing: "You are not your thoughts." For the first time, Alex felt seen. He took the hardest step, telling his parents. They didn't understand at first. They thought OCD was just being clean or picky. But over time, they began to learn. They read articles. They watched documentaries. They asked questions. And slowly, they became allies in his healing. Diagnosis and the road to healing. Getting diagnosed brought relief, but also fear. What did it mean to have OCD? Was he broken forever? But his therapist told him something he'd never forget. OCD is treatable. You may not fully cure it, but you can manage it. You are not your thoughts. Alex began exposure and response prevention, ERP therapy. It was hard. He had to face his fears. Touch the contaminated object and resist washing. Check the stove once, then walk away. Sit with the anxiety. Let it burn and not react. There was no overnight fix. Every tiny win felt like a war. But he began to see change. One day, he only checked the door twice instead of 15 times. One morning, he walked out without completing a full ritual. He started to feel in control again. He also joined an online support group. There, he met people from all over the world, sharing the same battle. They encouraged each other. They reminded one another that healing isn't about speed. It's about showing up every day, living with OCD, not ruled by it. Today, Alex still lives with OCD. He still gets intrusive thoughts. He still has hard days. But OCD no longer rules his life. He's learned that his brain sometimes lies. That not all thoughts are true. That uncertainty is uncomfortable, but not dangerous. He began speaking openly about OCD. He started a blog. He became a guest on mental health podcasts. He shared his story on social media. And for the first time, he felt like his pain had a purpose. Alex now volunteers as a mentor for teens with OCD. He gives presentations to schools, helping teachers recognize early signs and encouraging empathy. Because he believes understanding is the bridge between stigma and support. He also began journaling as a form of therapy. Writing helped him identify patterns and track progress. He encouraged others to do the same, turning their daily struggles into reflections of strength. Why this story matters. This story matters because people still treat OCD like a joke. Because many still suffer in silence. Because too many believe OCD is just about neatness, when it's really about fear. OCD isn't quirky. It's a mental war. It's the daily battle to resist false alarms. It's the illness that makes you question everything, including your own existence. This story matters because someone watching this video right now might finally feel seen. Might finally gather the courage to ask for help. Might finally believe healing is possible. And that could change their life. We share this story not to shock, but to connect. to pull back the curtain on a misunderstood condition, and to say to every silent sufferer, you matter. Your story matters. To anyone out there who feels broken, weird, or ashamed because of their thoughts, please hear this. You are not your disorder. You are not your thoughts. You are a whole and beautiful human being who deserves support, love, and peace. OCD is not your identity. It's just one chapter in your story, and it doesn't decide how your story ends. You're not alone. There are people who care. There are treatments that work. There is a calmer life waiting for you beyond the fear. If you're struggling right now, please reach out. A therapist, a friend, a support group. Take that first brave step. Because healing doesn't start when everything is perfect. It starts when you say, I need help. If this story resonated with you, please share it. You never know who might be struggling silently, someone who just needs to hear one voice say, I've been there. You're not alone. Click like, subscribe, leave a comment if you've experienced something similar or want to support those who are still fighting. Let's keep talking. Let's keep listening. Let's keep learning. Because sharing stories opens the door to understanding. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and awareness purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional diagnosis or treatment. If you or someone you know is experiencing mental health challenges, please seek help from a licensed professional. Support is out there. You are not alone.